I'm Joe Kane.
I'm Sal Conca.
And I'm Wayne Heckler.
And this is The Imperfect Podcast.
Don't forget to check us out at hecklerkane.com and everywhere on social media.
To the bumper. On today's show, we got two special guests. We have two guys who are making a Western. Now, this is really like, kind of throwback to old Westerns.
It's traditional Western.
Traditional Western.
Spaghetti Westerns.
It's called Gunhand, and they're raising an IndieGoGo platform. We're going to have Erman Baradi and Ray Agaoglu.
It's great because I think Westerns are a genre that just has been overlooked for a long time. You've seen a couple. Quentin Tarantino, he put out The Hateful Eight. The Revenant is something that was put out, but I don't know if The Revenant was really a traditional Western the way we think about Unforgiven and Tombstone and those other movies. So this is pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot that goes into making a Western, so we're going to be talking about everything from locations to funding to gear that they used and everything else under the sun.
Trouble with horses. I mean, we're covering it all today.
Exactly. So stick around, and we're going to chat with Erman and Ray. Erman, Ray, welcome to the Imperfect Podcast. How you guys doing today?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you as well.
Awesome. Where are you guys calling in from?
I'm calling in from Amsterdam right now.
Ah, the red light district.
How'd you know?
I saw the red flashing lights behind your,
He just got very flustered real quick.
And I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Unfortunately, no red light district. I think it's very illegal here.
Nice. Everything's illegal down there in Virginia.
Yeah. It's a commonwealth, so.
Cool. So we had you on today. Wanted to talk about your independent film, Gunhand, which is currently in the process of being crowdfunded on IndieGoGo. But want to really talk to you guys about your history and what inspired you to make this movie. It's a Western, which is something that I think a genre that doesn't get talked about a lot. We talk a lot about horror, a lot about comedy. Western is one of those forgotten arts. You got guys like Quentin Tarantino that have made some projects recently. So why don't you guys give us a little bit of background, fill in some of the gaps for our audience about how you came to be making films and what your backgrounds are, any formal training, things like that.
I have a background actually as a comic. I used to draw comics all the time, and from comics I got into storyboarding. And I met some people who were doing a lot of 2D animation stuff. This is in the 90s before 3D really broke, made its way into all forms of animation. And then from storyboarding, you kind of you work with the director and you kind of vision the story unfolding. And I really learned a lot from talking to these directors about how things that they wanted. And then I just one day decided that I was going to try to tell my own stories. And actually going to live action somehow was more of a challenge. I kind of like it. I like a challenge. We'll get to that later when we talk about why you want to make a Western.
Sure.
And then, I just kind of rolled into it, and I don't really have any formal training other than the storyboarding aspect.
Cool. So, is your role with Gunhand? Are you the screenwriter? Did you write the script, or?
Yes, I did write the script as well. Yep.
Okay, awesome. So, Erman, how did you get involved with film, and what's your background like?
Yeah, so I went to film school here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, but my start in the industry kind of started in I don't want to say weird, but it was actually through other industries. So while in film school, I interned at a local radio station here, and meanwhile I had worked a little bit with some music artists in the local area. And I utilized that background to actually land a Hollywood internship. So I flew out to LA in 2012, did that whole deal, learned script coverage because my whole thing is I want to be a screenwriter myself. So I learned script coverage, utilized that background to get more gigs, and then somehow it kind of like segued into event production. So okay. I do a lot of panel events, industry panel events in LA, New York, Chicago, and I just did one in Virginia. So I kind of used my background in script coverage to get gigs in screenwriting conferences, which led to producing my own events. And today we we do events in all those big cities, and we utilize those contacts to help us move forward when it comes to projects. So my business partner Brandon, he connected with the folks over at Gunhand, and he's like, hey, we have to work with these guys. So we met up via Skype with them because they're all over in Europe and we're here in the United States. But we want to, as a company, Mixnology, we want to segue into more productions. So we believe that a project like this is something we definitely want to be part of because it's just so grand. You look at the trailer, or I'm sorry, you look at the teaser trailer on IndieGoGo, and it's like, wow, like why would you not want to work with these guys? They have a really great vision. It reminds me of like films that I love, as a film lover. So
Sure.
Yeah, so here we are today, and we can't wait to see where this film goes.
Cool.
Now the cinematography on that teaser trailer is
Absolutely.
excellent. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's one of the things that really captured our attention. Of course, story, but visually what you see there is we're just in awe of it.
So, Ray, I want to ask you, what camera did you use to shoot that?
A number of Blackmagic cameras, mostly Blackmagic cameras, I should say that. The Cinema, the Ursa, and we did, pretty much those were the main cameras we used.
All right, thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I mean it's beautiful. It's eye catching for sure, and that's one of the things we noticed right away. That and the editing, right?
The lighting,
Yep.
Just really set the tone properly. So it is actually a teaser because it's actually teasing us. We want to see the rest of this. I mean, it's looking really good. Yes.
It did its job, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Where was that actually shot? The teaser shot.
Well, that's going to sound a little bit crazy, but that's actually all shot, here in the Netherlands, and if you guys, Holland, where and it's one of the most densely populated countries in Europe. We had to really struggle to find something that felt anything like the West. When you're thinking of westerns, you're thinking of these grand, big open spaces, with desolate, isolated areas. So we at sometimes we really had to struggle. We had to ask people, could you please get out of the way? We're trying to get this shot here, and anyway. But so we had quite our bit of challenge to get it done. But in the end, we're really pleased with the way it looks, and we're happy to hear that other people really get the idea, the sense of what we're trying to do with the film. Because you guys were talking about that horror is a genre that comes around a lot. What we're trying to do is definitely something that's that really grabs you, and I would almost say it's more maybe like a thriller. I don't want to go as far as horror, but it's definitely not a soft, sentimental kind of story.
Yeah. And what we love about westerns is that there's westerns that we love usually cross genres in a way. There's always the romantic part to it, the dramatic part, of course, but also the action part to it. So westerns kind of engulf other genres in a really cool way.
Well, as long as you're not going to remake Wild Wild West with Will Smith, I think we'll be okay.
No worries.
Well, let me ask your opinion. Quentin Tarantino has done some westerns as of recent. You saw the Cowboys versus Aliens and some Cowboys and Zombies and other crossover things. And I genuinely don't think that's the way you're going. But
No.
Has that kind of spoiled some of the cowboy and Western feels and Western genres?
I think it has a little bit. I think that it's a shame that people don't see westerns just as a medium, as a vehicle to tell pretty much any kind of human story. Any just the themes that you find in, for instance, in a lot of science fiction or any genre, you can transpose them into the West, and you can tell great stories. And so it's kind of a shame. It kind of cheapens the genre a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's been some great successes. I think The Revenant was a great flick. That was just amazing. I mean, the story there was phenomenal, and that had a long runtime. So you had to sit with The Revenant for a while to really be sold on it. And they did a great job. It didn't feel as long as it was. So
Right.
you know, and you're right. I mean, the Western is known for being able to tell these great stories. Initially, the West, right? When we talk about the West, it's the U.S., the immigrant settlers and this type of story, right? And struggle and life stories and stories of success and failure and all these types of things. So, you know, really excited. Can you maybe give us a brief synopsis of what the overarching story of Gunhand is?
Well, the story centers on actually on a younger character who's based on someone who really existed named Frank Eaton. Later, he was known as Pistol Pete. There's actually like a little YouTube video from the 1940s, I think, where he's still alive. He's like a real old man, and he's doing things with his gun and stuff. But he was a marshal at a really young age, and the reason why is because he was looking to find his father's killer, and he spent like a lot of years trying to find this guy that killed his dad. So anyway, the main character is this young marshal who actually is helped by a former outlaw. But the marshal doesn't know that he's a former outlaw. So at the end of the film, he's kind of has this moral dilemma where this guy who helped him and saved his life actually is just as bad as the guy that he was trying to kill. And so he has this dilemma. Okay, you know, do I forgive this guy, you know, or do I accept that people can change, or am I just, you know, are things black and white? And you know, if you've done something, you know, in the past, you know, you always have to pay the price. I mean, that's sort of his dilemma at the end of the film.
Cool.
Excellent.
Yeah, obviously, right. You have your lead character established as the heroine, and you've created the conflict and dilemma there. So I'm curious to see how that story unfolds. We're all going to have to wait for it.
So
I don't.
Sorry, you said
don't want
that
to give you too many spoilers.
I know, no spoilers, no spoilers yet.
Exactly. You said that you were in the process of putting this together for 3 years. You were working on this one.
Yep. Yeah, for a long time. It was actually a short film, and then we ended up deciding not to go for a short because we'd all made some shorts, and to try to make a feature out of it. So also the script had to be rewritten, and it's never completely finished.
Yeah, and I think Ray, you started. It was envisioned for a novel, right? A dark novel. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even like a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And you're right, like all works of art, it's never finished. You know, there's always so much you could do. It's always over.
Right.
Yeah.
It's never finished. It's just released.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, is this the first time you worked with animals, like with horses? What was your experience with that? Any interesting things going on, or was it relatively easy to shoot there with them?
Hell no. It was, there's the three rules, major rules. Don't work with kids, don't work with animals. And another thing is don't do anything in another, a time frame or era or anything like that. So we're breaking almost all those rules. Yeah. With David, I have to say, David is the guy that I work with. He's a really talented cinematographer. You know, I myself also, I'm always really excited what he's able to do with the camera, but he helps, me with plan all kinds of shots. And we had all kinds of stuff planned with horses, and we had these guys from this Western riding sort of club, and they promised they would be able to do this and that. And then, these horses looked great and everything looked great. And then as soon as the camera got close to the horse just decided, I don't want to be a part of any Western. I
it's I didn't sign up to be in a movie.
The way.
Yeah. Don't want to be in a movie, so a lot of respect to, people who work, train horses to work actually in films, because we did all this stuff without, these horses that are trained. And they do fine when they're just doing their regular thing. But as soon as they get around cameras and lighting and things like that, they get spooked, and that makes it really tough.
Sure. Now, Erman, is your executive producing this, I assume, and is this your first feature that you're producing, or have you worked on feature films before or just shorts?
As a college student, I worked on feature films that I don't want to talk about. But in this capacity, yes, when it comes to funding and when it comes to working with folks across the world, it's a bigger scale than I've ever worked with before. But we're always up for a good challenge. So, and this is a good challenge, and it's a challenge worth taking because of the story, because of how we want it to look.
Cool. So you talked about location. Location is a huge part of shooting this, and I know for the trailer, like you just mentioned, you shot it in the Netherlands, but I believe you have a vision to shoot this through in Spain, right? Yeah.
Spain, lovely country.
Yeah. So can you talk a bit about selecting locations and why Spain, and have you scouted all the locations for this movie yet? Like what is that process kind of like, scouting locations and all that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, this whole film, I mean, even the fact that we're connecting on internet with you guys, Erman and Brandon, we met them through internet. The whole fact that you can put something like this together is also due to the age that we live in because of internet. So scouting locations is mostly at first done by finding all kinds of, not just photographs, but you can. I even find people's home videos that they put on Facebook, or sorry, that they put on YouTube. I'll just look in the title if they're on a holiday in a certain area. I'll check it out, because sometimes you get to see certain angles of certain areas, or you see these little gems of locations. So location scouting is done. You don't necessarily have to go there yourself all the time.
Well, I'm gonna stop. That's like a quotable, like, industry learning moment, right?
I know, that's
scouting
excellent.
Locations on YouTube. I think people are gonna be really interested on that one.
It's smart. It's smart.
Or they could consider him a stalker, one or the other. But
Well, you do. I mean, I do. I constantly. The problem with scouting locations like that is that you're constantly thinking, okay, get out of the way.
Right.
I'm trying to see. I want to get a look at what's behind the people. But anyway, that's a way that we found a bunch of places. And the area in Spain, aside from the fact that it's got a lot of rich history because it was used for most of the spaghetti westerns shot by Sergio Leone, there's an infrastructure there. There's still a lot of stuff being shot there for commercials and even some sci-fi films. All different types of stuff is being done there. So it's a logical location that in Europe, if you're trying to get something that has a Western feel to it, like say Arizona, New Mexico, something like that, it's logical for you to go there. And that's the reason why we'd like to shoot it there. And I think it looks great too.
Yeah.
And for us Americans, it's an excuse for me to finally get a passport. So.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, are you gonna go when filming commences? So, I know you have. Let's see. By the time this airs, there'll be 9 days left to your IndieGoGo campaign. So when is filming anticipated to commence? Or
the plan was for sometime in 2017, October-ish, fall-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna have. Are you gonna try to raise a second round after the initial?
Probably looking at Kickstarter as well, because it's a slightly bigger platform, huh?
Yeah.
Sure. And the more you get, the more you could put into the film. That's what it's all about, trying to make it as best as you can within those means. So that's excellent. Sure, keep going.
Yeah, and there are other platforms as well. You can always look to crowdfund. So it's not like all eggs in one basket. This is a good chance to find other avenues as well and meet other people and connect with more audience members. So to who you think would probably want to contribute. So it's the internet. Thank God for the internet, right?
Well, yeah. Exactly.
Let me ask you a question. How do you see this film going? Like, where do you see it going? Are you looking to do film festivals? You want theater release? Are you thinking about distribution?
Erman?
You know what?
To the producer.
I'll be quite honest with you. I would love to see it on the big screen, but hitting festivals is a good way to get some attention from distribution companies. So I definitely see it hitting the festivals in the future. But VOD is a quite interesting platform, isn't it? Like anyone from anywhere in the world can open up Netflix and see a movie. So I mean, VOD, why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've had some conflicting points of view on that through our episodes from other filmmakers, right? There's like definitely two camps in the industry, right? To go
the one
Netflix
camp is if you go to Netflix, it's like the graveyard. Like you're going to lose your film at the end of your film's run.
And then the other side is getting yourself known and building from there. Once they see your work, now the next project we could even make bigger. So you see it two different ways.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny you say graveyard. I heard that too before. It's an interesting look at that because you when you think Netflix, you think one of the biggest platforms, right? But if it's a TV show, yeah. But if it's a movie, I don't really know how often you go to Netflix to watch a movie. You know?
Yep. We had I'll name drop. We had Kyle Hester on the show. He's done a couple of crowdfunded campaigns. I don't know if you're familiar with Zombie with a Shotgun or Preacher 6, which he's crowdfunding now. And he was talking about a lot of the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into your project, and then selling it to Netflix, you're going to sell it for a nominal fee, and that's kind of where it ends, as opposed to getting all the juice out of it you could by going to festival or distribution or other avenues. Ethan had a similar view on that as well. But, again, there's the other side of that camp, like we said, going to Netflix and getting your name out there.
There are so many avenues now that you can take. You can go to Film Market. You can go to... like what Sal said, the festivals. You can go straight to internet and have people just download it directly and make money off of that way too. So the technology in the day and age that we're in, it's really mind-boggling.
It's just getting the name out there, getting the knowledge that this film exists. Is once they see once they see that I'm not going to place one, but once they see that they're hooked. Once they see the film, I think yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that with this film also is, if we're going through the trouble of making a Western, and we all, I think, are on the same page, you make a Western because of the scope and the large feel of it. You guys mentioned The Revenant. I mean, that's a film I think everybody, should see in the theater on a big screen. Instead of maybe at home, on your laptop, at least once you should see it like that. And I think that's a good reason why we should try to get this film, in the theaters on the big screen. So at least, an audience has a chance to see it that way.
Yeah, 100%. So I know we talked about backgrounds and inspiration and things like that. So let's find out, like, Westerns. What are your three favorite Westerns that, if you think back, like, can you name three, or is it like, is three not enough for you? Are you?
Well, definitely, three is definitely not enough. It changes all the time, but I'll just be quick with it. I think the top three would be Unforgiven by Clint Eastwood, Good, Bad, and the Ugly from Sergio Leone, and Shane from George Stevens.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I forgot about that.
That's
a good one.
I would go with The Searchers by John Ford. I think 1956 or 54. Some people are gonna hate me, but True Grit from 2010. I loved it.
True Grit's a good movie.
I know more recent films, people are like but I loved it. And I would say Unforgiven as well.
I love Hang 'em High. That's a good one. That's an older one. That's excellent also.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. I'm still a Blazing Saddles fan, but I don't think that really qualifies.
Raisin.
But that is a great film.
It counts. It was a fantastic film. It counts.
And I did like Tombstone. Tombstone's a great flick as well, which is why 3 is just not a long enough list, right? So
right. Exactly.
Cool. So what other pictures have you produced, Ray? I think you mentioned some shorts or other things. Have you worked in this genre before, or what other genres or other films have you produced prior to this?
Well, most notably, maybe it's important to say that I actually was a history major, and so cool. I just have a hard time, particularly if I'm writing something or if somebody asks to work with me. I always try to do things that just don't play in a modern setting. It's always, in the past. And before this film, I made a samurai film, short film.
Short Devil Mountain, correct?
Devil Mountain, yeah.
Yes.
Somebody did his research over here.
No, I watched the trailer for that. I want to say that was very impressive. I did want to ask you, where did you shoot that, especially the spot on the mountain where they both pulled out their swords?
That was in Germany. There's this little sort of nature reserve where they have these certain types of rocks that could have had kind of an Eastern feel to it. And we got really lucky. We went there, and it snowed. It had just snowed, and it was kind of snowing constantly the whole 3 days we were there. So we had continuity. You know, every day was the same. We got really lucky, and
nice.
That really helped. You know, give that a certain feel. So anyway, again, that was kind of a tough shoot. So I think with Gunhand, you know, because it's a feature, you know, you're talking a much longer schedule. But I do have some experience with going to kind of tougher, you know, areas where you have the weather and you have certain things that you have to deal with. So hopefully that will help, you know, that experience.
Nice. And then you made that commercial with a jazz saxophonist, Benjamin Herman, right? What was that? And I don't know how to pronounce that word. What was it? Affligum?
Oh, Affligum. Yeah, that's a beer. It's a Belgian.
I wasn't sure, yes, how to pronounce.
Yeah. I love getting Wayne to try to pronounce things he has no idea how to pronounce. It's been a running joke on this podcast.
Hey, it made me want to be part of that club. It was kind of cool how they did it. That he said, like, it was a member of the Affligum Society, and it's a jazz place. It kind of makes them want to, you know, drink that. So it was kind of well made.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was they definitely want to. It was like this beer brand. They want to target a certain audience. They want to get like a younger, hip kind of thing going. So they asked some. They wanted to have kind of a different style of a commercial.
Well, commercial work pays the bills, right?
Yeah, I mean that's just the way it is.
Was that your concept or their concept, and you shot it? Just curious.
It was their idea to get a. To link it with the jazz, and then we just kind of decided to shoot it a certain way.
Nice.
So Ray, what are 3 points that you could give indie filmmakers looking to break into the industry?
I would say 3 things. I would say one is you got to make as much mileage as possible. So you know, you have to shoot a lot. You shoot as much as you can, and try to do some variations on genres and on styles of stories and projects. The other thing I would say that's really important is your network. You know, some filmmakers it just comes naturally to them, but there's also a type of filmmaker which is what I'm like more, who's just kind of sitting in his own, you know, man cave or whatever, and you know, writing and storyboarding and doing research and reading and stuff, and you don't really meet people like that. So I mean, that's why I'm so happy with, you know, having met Erman. But for me, that's a big deal, just to go out and meet people. So I think that's really important as an independent filmmaker, because the third thing is, you know, you have to do everything yourself. You have to be ready to do a lot more than you would on a big budget picture where they've got, you know, the money to pay all these different people. You know, in the end, you're going to have to do stuff yourself, which is also a lot of fun. So I would say, if you're an independent filmmaker, even though you consider yourself to be a writer or a producer or a director, I would say, you know, do everything. I personally, I've done everything. I'm not saying I've done it well, all of it, but I even acted. You know, I've even acted in some things just so that you know what it's like for that person. I've made costumes. I've worked on building sets. You know, all that stuff. Really, the only thing I haven't really done that much is what Erman and Brandon do, is the producing part, and that has to do with networking. So, you know,
you're a hustler, Ray. We like it.
Cool.
Both you guys, yeah.
It's the grind, the indie filmmaking grind. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would say oh, sorry.
No, we want. What are your 3 points?
My 3 points is, and this is actually something that helped me today because I'm a writer. That's my my thing I do. But for me, I would say, and you hear this a lot, and I hope it doesn't sound cliche, but it's literally just writing. It doesn't matter if it's like a good idea, just write, because once you get that out of your system, then you can go back and be like, okay, let me actually make this better. So a lot of it is just actually doing it, you know. And I know that sounds cliche, like I said, but to physically do it, like you can't say you're right or not right, you know. Just do it, and then go back to it later and clean it up. One of my things is I like to write, put it away, and then look back at it like a few weeks later. If I still feel the same way about it, then I'm gonna rock with it. But if not, I'm like, okay, this is a good time to change it. So sometimes it is good to put it away and then come back to it later, because you want to just go with what you read and say, okay, it is still as good as when I wrote it originally. So put it away for a while. And then secondly, I would say actually like do some living. Like I know Ray said, like, actually film. I would say do some living, like to put content out there, to be inspired, actually enjoy the world or do something out there. You know, it's hard when you're sitting, when you put yourself in a behind four walls. Sometimes it is hard to be inspired because you're literally just sitting behind four walls. You're not connecting with the world. You know, a lot of the stories I get, or like when I write comedy, a lot of the funny stuff I get is literally sitting in a coffee shop and hearing other people's conversations. You know. Because they say funny shit.
Oh yeah, exactly. And life experiences will influence your storytelling always, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. I have a question and I'll just get personal, because we've been talking about projects for like 2017 and figuring that out. What's your guys' process for choosing, or like if you write things? We may have written 4 or 5 different scripts over the years, right? How do you decide what to produce next? I mean, how does? Oh man, I know, right? What's is it just a gut check? Is it a certain set of criterias? You know, like
it. For me, it's funny you say that, because before in the past I would be like, okay, I'm gonna write something that I think would hit next year. Like I think this would be the topic next year, and I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I think you create what you truly want to create. If you create just to appease an audience, you know, for example, when like Juno came out in 2007, I thought to myself, let's make quirky comedies like this, because this is what's going to hit next year, you know? But if you do it for the sake of that, you're not really creating from your heart, you know? Just create what you want to create.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Good point, yes.
Good advice.
I would definitely go along with that, Erman, that it's stuff that everyday things that kind of hit you, touch you, that somehow inspire you to want to tell a certain story. And it's hard to say where that comes from, or how you decide that now's the time that you want to tell this kind of story. But I mean, I think if that's the point where you take off from, I think it's got much more chance of being a success, and also of giving you as an artist or as a filmmaker a fulfilling feeling. You know, if you're just doing it because you're, you know, just want to. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making money, but
money should be an end result, right? You should do it for the passion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you know what? Interesting enough, it's the support you get back to allow you to create more. That's why, you know, we have to get paid for our art.
Of course.
It funds the creativity.
Of course.
It funds that creative process.
Yeah. There's no escaping that. That's just the way it is.
Of course. Yeah. Cool. Well, this was like super awesome, insightful stuff, guys. Like, really happy you guys were able to stick around with us.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
You can check out their info at www.gunhandthemovie.com.
Look at that. You didn't even screw it up.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good night, and thank you so much.
Yeah. Welcome to the Wacky Imperfect Podcast Hour.
Oh my God.
Pew 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 pew.
Well, with that being said,
Ricochet Rabbit. Now there's a Western for you.
Hey,
Ricochet Rabbit.
Who invited Pistol Pete?